Here to start the week on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM and streaming as always on our KCMO Talk Radio app. So yesterday was the 1-year anniversary, looking back on the near assassination of President Trump. And if you did not see the video, and I understand if you didn't, Sunday, church, doing things, family time, whatever it might be, the video that the White House put out on YouTube yesterday, oh my goodness. Even if you're not like a diehard Trump supporter, I mean, unless you have major TDS, I genuinely think that this video that I will play for you here on KCMO is going to give you chills. 1 year after the president of the United States, who then, of course, was the candidate, and a former president, found himself within a quarter inch of losing his life.
Donald was the young man who was going to conquer mankind.
He takes chances that would make a less daring man shudder.
To think about the arc of where he's been, it's like some sort of mythical story or something.
This sounds like political presidential talk to me.
Donald Trump seems to always get stronger when challenged.
My God, that guy's got resilience.
Those who deal with you underestimate you and live to regret it.
It's always good to be underestimated. It is not about politics. It's about our love for this great country, America, and we're not going to let it fail. I will fight like no one has ever fought before.
Trump is the bodyguard of Western civilization.
You want to talk about a fighter, a walk through fire? He's an absolute savage.
He knows that this is much bigger than him. This is about the American people. They have no idea what they have unleashed. He was ready to go face the cameras and come out swinging.
What will future Americans say we did in our brief time here on Earth? It will be defined by your vision, your perseverance, and your grit. Nothing will sway us, nothing will slow us, and no one will ever stop us. We are Americans. Ambition is our heritage. Greatness is our birthright. And the future belongs to us.
That video dropped by the White House yesterday morning. We put up on the KCMO Talk Radio Facebook page if you want to see it there. If that doesn't give you some chills, if that doesn't give you some feeling of American pride, you don't have to love this guy to listen to that video and come away thinking, man, that was good. We are in a damn good spot right now. That was my takeaway as I watched that video. And then we got this yesterday from the White House, a presidential message that came out on the anniversary of the tragedy in Butler, Pennsylvania. And the president's writing here in part, 1 year ago today at 6:11 p.m., 8 minutes after taking the stage on the grounds of Butler Farms to address thousands of Americans gathered at a campaign rally, rifle fire broke out. An assassin's bullet came within a quarter inch of ending my life and silencing our movement to restore American greatness. Yet by the hand of providence and the grace of Almighty God, my life was spared. As we commemorate 1 year since the harrowing events of July 13th, 2024, we reaffirm that the American spirit has and will always triumph over forces of evil and destruction. He goes on to write here, however, one name stands above all for selfless service and ultimate sacrifice on that fateful day. The world will never forget the tragic loss of Corey Comparator, a firefighter, veteran, and devoted husband and father. When gunfire erupted, Corey did not hesitate to protect his wife and 2 daughters. He died a hero, and we are eternally grateful for his inspiring love, valor, and faithfulness. The president wraps up the statement here yesterday that came down at about 7 p.m. last night. It remains my firm conviction that God alone saved me that day for a righteous purpose, to restore our beloved republic to greatness and to rescue our nation from those who seek its ruin. 1 year after the attempt on my life in Butler, our country is in the midst of a new golden age. History will remember the would-be assassin for his cowardice and failure, but the magnificent legacy of the heroes of July 13th, 2024 will forever be etched upon the heart of our nation. Today, we pay tribute to the spirit of love, unity, and resilience. And we proclaim with one voice the epic battle cry that has reverberated all across the world. Fight, fight, fight. That was President Trump. Now, this was the first time in my life that I had seen a presidential candidate or been alive for a presidential candidate or a president, for that matter, being shot. I wasn't alive when Reagan got shot. Obviously, wasn't alive when JFK was shot and killed. So it's one of those things that for me will be one of those top 3 historical moments that stands out in my mind. You know, I think back to where I was. I was actually about to put chicken on the grill when my phone started blowing up. Trump shot. Did you see Trump shot? Can you believe Trump just got shot? And, you know, I try to, within reason, take a little downtime on the weekend. So I'm not locked into like Fox News or CNN or certainly not MSNBC, but you get the point. I'm not watching cable news on the weekends. I don't really do it. So then I'm sitting there and my phone's blowing up and I'm like, what are they talking about? So I'm on the back deck. I stop. I'm about to put this chicken on the grill. I turn on the TV outside and you can't of seeing what you're seeing. You can't believe you're seeing what you're seeing. And it's one of those moments that I know for all of us, looking back on that time from 1 year ago yesterday, will forever be burnt into our minds. And especially if you're of a certain age, because you weren't alive for Reagan, you weren't alive for JFK. And also, it's just a different world, right? You're now taking out your phone, and within seconds, you're seeing this on loop. It's on every television set, every channel, on loop. And you could see it over and over and over again. And still, as we sit here 1 year and 1 day later, it remains amazing to me that we're looking at this situation and the President of the United States is alive today to talk about it. Someone who never uses graphs, never turns his head, never does any of that during rallies. Why? Because he likes to be locked in with his crowd. Selena Zito, who was at the rally and has covered a bunch of those on behalf of President Trump, talked about this on Friday on the Vince Show right here on KCMO at 11 a.m. And she noted that having gone to all these rallies, Trump never really looks back at a graph. He doesn't really use charts. Why? Because he likes to be locked in. He likes to be like an entertainer. He likes to be like a rock star, locked in with the crowd, eye to eye, not using things to take his mind and his focus off of the people that he's talking to. But he did that. And in that rare moment, that is what saved his life 1 year ago yesterday. Now, in the meantime, the president spent some time with soccer over the weekend. The World Cup, of course, is coming to Kansas City in 1 year. The president was in a very celebratory soccer mood yesterday. Oh, Mark and John were fired up about that. I had to do some research on this soccer stuff to get ready for the show this morning. I wasn't digging it, but I'm digging less the 85 degrees here in the studio that we've got this morning.
Well, yeah, that's part of our World Cup promotion. We've set the climate control on Dubai today, seems like, right? I walked in, that hit me right in the face.
It is 84 degrees right now in the studio.
It is coming down, so.
We could do a live show. I got doors open in here, the whole thing. We could welcome in an audience this morning.
You may hear Mike and Mackenzie from down the hall any moment now.
But as we get it rolling here, the president was in a celebratory soccer mood yesterday. The World Cup comes to Kansas City. What did the president have to say about the future of soccer in America? I love him, but I can't agree with this take. Coming up next.
It's Mundo in the Morning. Now on FM at 95.7. Set a preset on your radio. KCMO Talk Radio.
So yesterday, the President of the United States found himself at MetLife Stadium. That is the football home for the New York Jets and the New York Giants. And he was there, and he joined the English soccer club Chelsea on the field to celebrate their victory in the 2025 FIFA Club World Cup. So, of course, the World Cup is coming to Kansas City basically 1 year from today. This will be happening here in Kansas City. But there's all these different, little club events that are happening the year leading up to it. And it's hard to keep track. This is the problem for soccer. And I guess you could say this about one of my favorite sports, golf, to some degree. But I feel with soccer, there's so many different layers.
Yeah.
There's
No, you're not wrong.
There's a lot to try to make sense of what's
under
what.
21, under 18, you got men's, you got women's, all countries, all nations. This club thing was just like if you just took the NFL and CFL and the various leagues and you throw the better clubs into a tournament. I think it looked like it was a little too big for as long as it went on over the summer. So it's basically a preseason training thing for most of the clubs. So we'll see if Chelsea can replicate their form, so to speak.
Yep. Well, they won yesterday, and they beat France's Paris Saint-Germain 3-0. So Trump's there at MetLife, and did you see the photos and videos of him celebrating with Chelsea after the fact? As if he's like, what would they call him, the manager of the club?
Yeah.
Those were great.
I saw a couple photos. It looked pretty fun.
He was having the time of his life on that stage. Remember, this is a guy who's owned sports franchises, right? Most probably, infamously, the New Jersey Generals. So he's a sports fan. We know he loves UCF now, or UFC. We know that he's obviously always had a soft spot for sports. But to see Donald Trump on stage one day after he nearly lost his life, celebrating this Club World Cup championship with Chelsea is one of those moments that looks Photoshopped to me. It looks like it's generated by artificial intelligence, but it wasn't. And they looked totally fine having Trump on stage with them yesterday. I mean, they looked like they were just having the time of their lives with Trump up there on that stage. So Trump's talking about this, and he mentioned the World Cup. He said this to DAZN Sports Network.
It's about unity. It's about everybody getting together and a lot of love between countries. And this is such I guess this is probably the most international sport. Yeah. So it can really bring the world together.
So remember, this World Cup is coming to the United States because of Trump's first term. That administration is the one who got the World Cup to the United States for 2026. So obviously he's excited about this. And because of these unique non-consecutive terms, he gets to be the guy who's in the White House when the World Cup is actually happening after getting them here during his first term in office. So obviously this is going to be something he takes a lot of pride in. He's there yesterday at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey, and he's there with the FIFA president and a bunch of other people as well. So he clearly cares about this event going well here in Kansas City and in all the other cities across the country that are hosting games. Expectations, and then saying, well, these people from other countries, they just don't want to come here. They're afraid that Tom Homan's going to, and you think so lowly of people in charge, that they are going to round up people who are here for World Cup games and do what with them exactly, I don't really know. I don't even understand how to put this conspiracy theory together. But that the World Cup will not meet expectations because of Trump? Listen to what the guy just said there. And even if you don't take him at his word, you and I both know that Trump, as the showman, wants to make this thing look huge, as he might say. He's all about a show. And there's no one who wants this thing to look as good as President Trump will want it to look next year, John.
Two things will be true at once. The demand for tickets will be high, so it's like if somebody doesn't go, there's someone in line willing to take their place. But the media will go find everybody they can.
Yes.
who's cowering in the corner.
Yeah.
And so the echo chamber is going to tell you, oh, a lot of people stayed away. But meanwhile, back at the ranch, it's, excuse me, pardon me, can I get through to the restroom? Excuse me, pardon me.
You are so spot on with that. Not only from the national media, but I guarantee you we will get some of this in Kansas City. They will find a couple of people who would have loved to have had their Uncle Nico in town for a little World Cup action. But, we talked to Uncle Nico, and he's like, I don't know if I can make it. I don't want to get rounded up by Trump and sent to Alligator Alcatraz. It's not going to happen. But they will find those people, and they will create these talking points to fit a narrative. Now, one thing Trump did end up saying, and this is what I want to get your thoughts on here on KCML. Trump said yesterday as well that he thinks that the United States will remain very competitive on the soccer field.
You talk about winning, you talk about making America the greatest again. Do you see any instance in where America could start dominating in football on a global stage?
Well, I can tell you we're doing very well on the other stage, on the political stage, on the financial stage. I was just in Saudi Arabia, I was in Qatar, I was in UAE. Here we have Qatar and, the big presence they have. But all of the leaders, and then you look at NATO, all of the leaders said a year ago your country was dead, and now you have the hottest country in the world. There's a lot of truth to that. We were doing very badly as a country. We had an incompetent administration, and now we have a hot country. It's really hot. And I think the soccer is going to be very hot here, too. It already is. It's gotten, a lot of play, and I think with the play come the great players, and I think it'll do very well.
That's courtesy of Dazen Sports. Only Trump can pull off the weave where he somehow ties in MAGA to NATO funding to American soccer's future, right? So I disagree with that. There is no evidence that American soccer for men is going to be able to compete with the best of the best in the world anytime soon, because our best athletes are still not playing soccer. Don't get me wrong. And I say this as somebody who, as an assistant coach for kindergarten soccer, is 8-0 in my career. But we got a long ways to go in this country on this sport. Our best athletes just don't do it. And until that happens, we are not going to make American soccer great. Not again, because it was never great. We got to make it great first before we make it great again. And there's no evidence to suggest that for the men, that's happening anytime soon. Can Kansas City media be great just for once outside of KCMO? I'll explain that next.
If it's happening in KCMO, it's on KCMO 95.7 FM. Here's Pete Mundo.
Well, congratulations to our good friend Heather Hall. You may recall she was the councilwoman for the 1st district up in the Northland for Kansas City, Missouri City Council, and she was in that role during a very critical time in Kansas City's history. The stupidity and the insanity of 2020, right? When people came to the conclusion that we should, not have cops, that we needed psychiatrists to instead go door to door to handle certain calls to people's homes and not have an armed police officer. It was just a weird time. And we needed good, solid pro-cop voices, especially in Kansas City. And that person was Heather Hall. Now, she got termed out a couple of years ago, so she is no longer on the Kansas City, Missouri City Council. But on Friday, Missouri Governor Mike Kehoe named Heather Hall as his pick to fill a vacancy on the Board of Police Commissioners. Now, as you may know, if you don't know, Kansas City, Missouri is run in the police department by a Board of Police Commissioners. The City Council does not have direct oversight of the police department. And this dates back, 100 years to the Pendergast era. And a lot of people in Kansas City, Missouri actually like it. It's a way to keep the politics from City Hall out of the police department. Now, the mayor of Kansas City is on the Board of Police Commissioners. That's Quentin Lucas, but then the rest are appointed by the governor. They do have to be Kansas City, Missouri city residents. So Dawn Kramer's out just because her time served is up, and Heather Hall is coming on. I can't think of anybody better in Kansas City than Heather Hall to be on the Board of Police Commissioners. She's married to retired KCPD Sergeant Eben Hall. Good guy as well. And the Kansas City Star made a big deal out of this. They, of course, talked to activists. I put up my air quotes when I say that. And these activists were not happy that Heather Hall was picked as the person to be on the Kansas City, Missouri Board of Police Commissioners. If the activists are upset, to me, that's a great pick. If we needed further reason for why Heather Hall, who will be on the show this morning at 8:20, is worthy of being on the Board of Police Commissioners, it's the activist community being all upset about it that is just the icing on the cake. Cheryl Ferguson, an organizer with It's Time for Justice, called Heather Hall, quote, the worst appointment ever, and the Marjorie Taylor Greene locally. Okay. Heather Hall's IQ might be 3x Marjorie Taylor Greene. That is quite an insult to Heather Hall. Okay? They are not even in the same galaxy when it comes to mental acuity. It's not even close. Cheryl Ferguson, with this group that no one's really ever heard of in Kansas City, added here to the Kansas City Star, she doesn't know how to interact with her city outside of her bubble. Adding here, there's nothing wrong with necessarily being pro-cop, except for when you have cops that are vilifying certain neighborhoods in Kansas City. And until the governor sees fit that there needs to be an appointment from those neighborhoods to the board, you're never going to have a board that works for the city. You know, what these people never do is they never say what they would do differently. They never say why having somebody from a certain part of Kansas City would magically result in homicides going down in high crime parts of Kansas City. Heck, you know where they actually increased the most in this town over the last year? It's in Heather Hall's old district. It's the Northland, where there has been the largest uptick in homicides in Kansas City from last year. North Patrol last year at this time had 5 homicides. This year there are 7. In the Shoal Creek district, last year there were 0 homicides. This year there have been 8. So maybe when you look at it on a percentage basis, the Northland has seen the largest increase in homicides of any district in Kansas City. Maybe it actually makes sense to have somebody like Heather Hall from the Northland on the Board of Police Commissioners, John.
You know, what also makes sense is if you're going to spout that argument, you better be in support of the Jackson County prosecutor, Melissa Johnson.
Yeah. Excellent point as
She
well.
is from the area which you describe.
Yep.
Which you falsely describe as being vilified.
That's an excellent point.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up because you're right about that. And Melissa Johnson's, as far as we can tell, doing a really good job so far. And you know what? We need to all be rooting for her. I don't know if she's perfect. I don't know if she was going to be the best pick, but I do know this much. She ain't Jean Peters Baker. She's got this thing trending in the right direction in Jackson County, Missouri. There was also an insinuation here in this Kansas City Star piece. Wife of former insinuation here in this PG sergeant picked for police board. Shame on Kehoe, activists say. That is such an insult to Heather Hall to simply imply that she's the wife of a former KCPD sergeant. She was on the Kansas City, Missouri City Council, won re-election, had a great relationship with the police department. The way the headline is written insinuates that she's just basically, and not that there's anything wrong with this, trust me, as I can tell, having a wife who stays at home is actually harder than having someone at times who's going to an office somewhere. Trust me, that's a hard job. You want to talk about a thankless, difficult job? That's it. And I'm seeing that firsthand with 3 kids, 6 and under. But the insinuation here that she is only being selected based on the headline and describing her as the wife of former KCPD sergeant, like honestly, and I'm not saying this as some kind of insult to her husband, Eben, who I know and who is a really good guy. More people in this town will know Heather than they will Eben because she's been in a position that's forward-facing and that is a, public position for a very long time at this point.
Not necessarily closely tied, but it would be like saying Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce kind of a thing, right?
Yes. Yeah, I'm trying to think of an analogy. Taylor Swift's boyfriend loses 20 pounds over the summer.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, you mean the guy who's going to be in the Hall of Fame? I was a Kansas City Chief and, one of the all-time great tight ends? Are you kidding me? Or Travis Kelce's Travis Kelce's girlfriend prepares to release new song. It's like, wait, no, she's the artist of a generation. That is an extreme analogy there, Mark, but it's a good one, and it works. And I know Mark's already thinking Chiefs, man. He's got his Mariners gear on this morning, but he's always thinking Chiefs, and we love that here on KCMO. So that in and of itself, that headline from the Kansas City Star is so insulting. And then you also have to remember this as well. Here in Kansas City, they want to make a big deal out of Heather Hall and her husband and their relationship and her being picked to be on the Board of Police Commissioners. I might have missed it, but I have never seen the Kansas City Star point out and make a big deal out of the fact that the Director of Public Works in Kansas City, Michael Shaw, is married to Rayanna Park Shaw, who is on the Kansas City, Missouri City Council and has more or less direct oversight on some of the big budget items that happen with Public Works. You want to talk about a conflict of interest at City Hall? That would be one that the Kansas City Star would consider digging into if they were actually an honest journalistic outlet. They're not. So they'll write about Heather Hall and say, wife of a former KCPD sergeant is on the Board of Police Commissioners. Oh, no, she was on the City Council. But nothing to see here when it comes to the Director of Public Works clearing a couple $100,000, married to someone on the City Council who, by the way, wants to be the mayor, might be Mayor Lucas's handpicked successor here in a couple of years when all is said and done. Nothing about that relationship, nothing about that marriage, nothing to see here. Don't you worry. Next on KCMO, the 6 at 6, the top 6 stories in the 6 o'clock hour we'll get to on 95.7 FM, and we are always streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app.
Hey, it's Kevin Keatsman. Stick around. I'm coming up at 10 o'clock right after Pete Mundo on KCMO 95.7 FM.
It is 6:49 on a Monday. It's great to have you here starting the new week on KCMO. And let's get you caught up.
It's time for the 6 at 6 on 95.7 KCMO Talk Radio.
I'm going to start with a feel-good story here for one of our own.
Number 1.
Former Chiefs running back Priest Holmes is stepping up to help flood victims in his home state of Texas. Holmes, of course, a Chiefs Hall of Fame inductee, organized a major relief effort after the devastating floods in Kerrville, Texas last week. With the support from the Chiefs ambassadors and volunteers in Kansas City and in Overland Park, Holmes helped fill 2 semis with critical supplies for families and first responders. Holmes Foundation quickly mobilized to gather food, water, blankets, bleach, slippers, and more. Among the recipients, a local volunteer fire department that lost all of its gear in the flooding. In less than 8 days, the group collected and delivered what Holmes called incredible supplies to Kerrville, where the damage, of course, remains widespread. So a round of applause for Priest Holmes and the work that he is doing down there in his home state of Texas. Next up in our 6 at 6.
Number 2.
I guess I'll keep it on the sports theme for right now. The Royals salvaged their series against the Mets over the weekend. I was there on Saturday for the Mets win. And yesterday, Royals blow that lead in the 9th, but then they come back and they win it in walk-off fashion. And honestly, listen, you guys know the one childhood team I have left in my life is the New York Mets. But there was a small part of me that was like, when the Mets tied it up in the 9th, I said, you know what? Give the Royals this win in the bottom half. Let them go into the All-Star break feeling good. We won the series. I want the Royals to do well, too. I actually was okay with the walk-off win yesterday. Shows you what kind of guy I am, doesn't it? As I'm sitting there thinking about Mark and thinking about John and saying, I saw my win in person. We got the series victory. Losing that game and then having a week off going into the All-Star break, that would have really stung. So I'm going to say it's my goodwill, it's my thoughts, it's my prayers that helped them pull it out yesterday.
Such a nice man.
Such a nice man.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that, Mark. Happy to help however I can. And then on another note, last night, the Major League Baseball draft took place, and the Chiefs had 2 picks in the top 30. And they selected 2 high school hitters. We know that's where they need the help, right? So these 2 guys that they selected with the number 23 pick in the MLB draft last night, the Royals picked a second baseman / outfielder, Sean Gamble, out of IMG Academy in Florida. He's from Des Moines. He's 19 years old, but he's been down at IMG Academy, one of those big prep factories there for the last few years. And then 5 picks later, at number 28, they got infielder Josh Hammond out of Wesleyan Christian Academy in North Carolina. So in the first round, they go heavy on the bats, which is what they need right now. And anything else you expected out of these picks, Mark, or are you happy with how these 2 picks went for the Royals?
I think they're pretty good. It's kind of weird with the money slotting and stuff like that. So today, I think they're going to add a few more bats, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, exactly right. So those were the top 2 picks yesterday for the Kansas City Royals in the Major League Baseball draft. Next up in our 6 at 6.
Number 3.
Well, let's go to KCMO, where over the weekend, 2 people were arrested after shooting into a Grand Boulevard apartment complex. This was right by the T-Mobile Center, 13th and Grand, 11:30 p.m. on Friday. So you're talking, 3-4 minute walk down the road. And police confirmed 1 woman was hurt as a result of the gunfire. She was taken to a nearby hospital for treatment of non-life-threatening injuries. Like, this is not 2 a.m., 3 a.m. Even then, it's somewhat inexcusable. But we're talking 11:30 at night. That's regular people who might be leaving a bar after going to a show down at T-Mobile. This is not that late at night for gunfire to be ringing out in a prime part of downtown Kansas City, Missouri. This has got to be another reason that if you're John Sherman and you're the Kansas City Royals, you're like, is downtown really where I want to be right now? By the way, I used to live downtown. I would love to see downtown doing really well, but it's not. By any objective measure, it's not. There's still too much crime. There's still too much violence. And when you're talking about putting $2 billion in investments somewhere, that has got to cross your mind if you're the owners of the Kansas City Royals. Next up in our 6 at 6 on KCMO Talk Radio.
Number 4.
Heather Hall named to the Kansas City Board of Police Commissioners. Talked about that earlier in the hour, but she is a former Kansas City, Missouri City Councilwoman up in the Northland. She's replacing Dawn Kramer on this Board of Police Commissioners that, of course, gets appointed by the governor outside of the mayor of Kansas City. And she will be a welcomed voice, a welcomed addition, and she will also be here on KCMO coming up at 8:20 this morning. It's been a while since we've talked to her, and not for any reason other than, she's not in elected office anymore. But it will be good to have her on, hear her voice, and hear about this new role of hers as she will become, I believe, one of the more important vocal and public figures on this Board of Police Commissioners.
Number 5.
Next up in the 6 at 6 on KCMO Talk Radio. A tornado was confirmed to have touched down Friday night in Cass County. Strasburg is where this happened, per the National Weather Service, starting at 8:21 and ending at 8:23 p.m. on Friday, July 11th. Obviously not a major tornado, but caused some minor tree damage near State Route 58. The tornado's path was less than a mile, and its maximum width was less than 200 yards. But this was confirmed over the weekend. Peak winds of 70 miles an hour, length of 3/4 of a mile, and lasted all of 2 minutes there in Strasburg.
Number 6.
And last for our 6 at 6 on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. We've got the stock futures sliding as we get set to open up here in about an hour and a half. Futures for the Dow fell 140 points. NASDAQ futures also down 0.3%. And that's in the wake of President Trump saying on Saturday the U.S. will impose 30% tariffs on the European Union and Mexico starting on August 1st. Leaders of the EU and Mexico indicate that they intend to keep talking with the administration this month in an attempt to agree on a lower rate. This is a big week. We will see some inflation numbers coming out this week as well. So the markets are going to be worth watching. There is your 6 at 6 on KCMO. News coming up in 3 minutes. And then, is it Trump's best month? But a downside to it all we'll talk about next. You almost have to feel bad for Trump on this one, don't you? Let me explain. 7:05, good morning. Glad you're here on KCMO. President Trump just had objectively the best month of his presidency. He took out the Tehran nuclear threat with minimal when you really look back on it. He's ended the border crisis. He's actively deporting people in large numbers, which is a popular policy right now in this country. It was not during his first term. It is right now. He passed a lot of his legislative priorities through the budget bill. He's moved on 80-20 issues like trans participation in women's sports. He's pushing towards normalization with Syria. Had a bunch of Supreme Court wins as well. The economy is mostly withstanding a lot of the tariff stuff for now. I'll put the caveat in there. And instead, you have some of the biggest key MAGA influencers giving speeches and going bonkers on social media and also being completely dismissive of a lot of facts centered around Jeffrey Epstein, a dead guy. Think about that, right? On Friday, the President of the United States was touring Kerrville, Texas. He was meeting with families who had lost loved ones, lost homes, lost everything in these historic floods that took place 2 weeks ago on July 4th. And what was happening on social media? Well, the news cycle is being taken over by reports that FBI Director Kash Patel and his sidekick Dan Bongino were threatening to quit. Now, you know and I know how this game works. That stuff gets out oftentimes because the people involved or the people around them want it to get out. So that whole news cycle on Friday was overtaken by the drama inside of the FBI in the wake of all the Jeffrey Epstein nonsense. Donald Trump, I believe, in that moment was getting undermined by his own people. The people who he took a chance on, who he put in very important positions of power in this country, who he's still relying on. I think his own people were somewhat sabotaging him on Friday. He was doing a really good job in that moment in Texas, touring these sites, meeting with families, being empathetic to people who had lost everything. And you know and I know the national media would much rather highlight infighting within the Trump administration than like just covering the news and, you know, what he's doing down there and showing the human side of this guy. So if they have a choice between showing the human side of Donald Trump in Kerrville, Texas, or talking about how his FBI director and his assistant FBI director are pissed off and want to quit, what do you think they're going to do? Of course they're going to cover the latter. Of course they're going to cover the latter. And that's exactly what they ended up doing on Friday. So they took that news cycle completely away from Donald Trump. And listen, to Trump's credit, he didn't sound like a guy last night that was all that bothered by the whole thing. I mean, he was asked about Dan Bongino yesterday, Joint Andrews Air Base, after he got back to work last night, and here's what he said.
Oh, I think so. I did. I spoke to him today. Dan Bongino, very good guy. I've known him a long time. I've done his show many, many times. And he sounded terrific, actually. No, I think he's in good shape.
So Trump isn't looking to create more drama inside of his administration. He's like, no, Dan and I are good. It's good. I like him. We're all set. Dan's in a good place. And then Kash Patel, his FBI director, also came out over the weekend and said this is a bunch of nonsense. Okay, I'm here. I'm the FBI director. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not threatening to quit. He didn't do any of that. So it makes you wonder why this stuff was getting out in the first place and where this was coming from and the why behind it, right? See, this is the difficult part, though. When you live in a place and you overpromise people from a media perspective, and then you actually have to go do the job, if you don't come through in the way that some people expect you to, they're going to point the finger at you. They're going to call you a failure. They're going to say you're part of a cover-up. They're going to say you're part of some kind of swamp culture. No matter what the facts are, that's what's going to come your way. And I think for some like Bongino, they're now experiencing that the hard way. It's a lot easier sometimes being on the other side. A lot easier. And then you get on the inside and it's suddenly like, well, maybe there's actually more here. There's more nuance. Maybe the facts weren't, where I wanted them to go. And now you got to do a little CYA. With all these people talking a big game, many part of the online right, how many people are aware that Steve Bannon has 15 hours of video interviewing Jeffrey Epstein? Why doesn't Steve Bannon release those videos? I mean, if we're going to play this song and dance and just kind of accuse people based on, some cockamamie ideas that may come to fruition and mean something at some point if we try to dot the I's and cross the T's and make of this what we want to make of it, why don't we have conversations like that? I'm not insinuating anything. I'm just asking questions. Isn't that the phrase of the day? I'm just sitting here asking questions. That's all. Asking questions. That's all I'm doing. I mean, Steve Bannon's been very vocal on this. He's got 15 hours of video interviewing Jeffrey Epstein. Anyone seen those videos? He's got them. Not like he can blame the government for these, right? Not like he can say that somebody else has them. Where's that conversation? Why don't we go there? I'd love to see what's in them. I'd love to see what they talked about. And you can't blame the deep state for having those videos. So at a time when you have the president of the United States having just a rip-roaring few weeks on his policy, for it to be overshadowed by this, to me, is a total letdown of the people who claim they've got his back. The people who claim, and also, by the way, take credit for Donald Trump's success, which frankly, nobody should, right? I mean, there's a very small group of people that can take any credit for Donald Trump's political success, like a couple of very close confidants, maybe Elon Musk because of his funding during the 2024 campaign. Maybe you can find half a dozen people, but that's really it. Online influencers think much more highly of themselves than, frankly, they should, and they're completely missing the moment right now. As I posted on X over the weekend at 913-408, no, that's the phone number. On X at Pete Mundo, that's where you can find me there. And you do with this information what you want. But regular people want to live a decent life. They want to afford a home, raise kids, save money, and not really think about their government. Joe Biden failed at this. As a result, Trump got reelected. The online right, obsessed with Jeffrey Epstein, is way out of touch with everyday Americans. Let's go to Alfonso in Blue Springs. Got a minute for you, my man. What's happening?
You way off on this one. Donald Trump ran on transparency. Pam Bondi got on TV talking trash. And now you're not going to release anything? That's on them. You got to hold yourself to a higher standard. You created the standard by running like that with the JFK files and all that. The same thing applies. It makes you look guilty because people believe that you're in those files. Transparency means you release that information and let it go, and then the story goes away. By not releasing it, you make the story worse.
So you're saying it's on Trump or Bondi?
It's on Trump. He's the leader. You ran on transparency, and you're not giving it to us. And you let her, your mouthpiece, get out there talking about she had the files. So two stories can't be true at the same time. Release the files, and the story goes away. That's on him.
Here's what I'll say. Here's what I'll say to that, Alfonso, and thank you, my man. I appreciate it. If Trump came out and maybe admitted that he was saying some of these things for cheap applauses at rallies, I actually think it would help him. But I don't see that happening anytime soon. Paul in KCMO, real quick. Paul, go ahead, buddy.
Hey, I agree with you. If I hear that name, Laura Loomer, I think I'm going to go crazy again. MSNBC has been running this thing all morning. They're just giving red meat to these far-left Democrats. I don't care about Epstein out here in flyover country. I care about the tariff policy. I care about our foreign policy and what Mr. Trump's doing right now. So it's ridiculous. They're just feeding the Democrats for the midterms.
All right. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate you, man.
Brother.
Have a great day. We got both sides of it there. We'll do more of it here on KCMO. Coming up next, Sean Smith is on the Jackson County Legislature So Frank White, the recall, the election, where is it at? After a veto, lawsuits involved, the whole 9 yards. He's coming up next.
You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM.
So if you took the day off on Tuesday, August 26th, because you're thinking to yourself, hey, we may get a chance to go to the polls and vote to recall Frank White, not so fast. The Jackson County Election Board and Kansas City Election Board are seeking a court order to delay a planned August 26th recall election. And that is because they just think it's all happening too quickly. They don't have enough time to do what they claim they need to do to get this recall vote going. Sean Smith is here, Jackson County legislator on KCMO. So what happens now, Sean?
Good morning, Pete. So what happens now? Let's see. We have two different lawsuits. One filed by a lawyer on behalf of the folks who collected the petitions. That's going to have an expedited hearing. That really is seeking two things. One, of course, an August 26th election, but more importantly than that, an judge that we never needed an ordinance in the first place, that as soon as those signatures were certified, work should have begun immediately on an election without delay. And that's to me the most important part of that suit, both for the immediate case, but also for purposes of just retaining power for the people of Jackson County.
So, I mean, what are the odds then? Do you think that this election, this recall is going to happen on August 26th?
You know, pushing back against the election authorities is going to be tough, just to be honest. But I'm fully supportive of those efforts to keep it on August 26th. Anything I can do to help, I'm willing to do. You know, they can point to certain state statutes. They were supposed to mail military ballots by last Friday. They said they didn't have time to print them. I've never run an election, Pete, so I don't know what they're up against. I just wish that they'd started immediately. And then if they said they still couldn't do it, that would be fine. But instead, they were gaslit by our county counselor, and he told them they had to have an ordinance. And I believe that was untrue.
But if you have to basically do this within 60 days, this recall vote, and they can kick the can down the road, then does that make this whole thing potentially null and void where it's outside of the 60-day window and a recall vote never ends up happening?
So I find it hard to believe that a judge would make that determination. The piece of our county charter that said that we would hold an election within 60 days was written in there back in the 70s. Elections were done very differently then. The mail service was much more prompt, among other things, for overseas ballots. So I really think that a judge will try to split the baby in half, is my guess, and come to a date that is possible for the election authorities to follow this relevant statutes, and at the same time as quickly as possible. Anything short of that, I'll be very disappointed in whoever the judge is.
All right. And then what about this? Frank White issued another veto, and this time it comes to whether or not Jackson Countyans would be able to vote and have a special election in November for an elected assessor. We know about the assessment issues in Jackson County. Is there anything that you as a legislature will do on this front today?
Not today. We don't have a meeting today. Some of my colleagues are off at a National Association of Counties session.
Who's paying for that?
You know, I would imagine the taxpayers. I chose to stay home. But there's valuable information that we get out of that, I think. But at the end of the day, not a meeting today, but next week, I believe we will override that veto and still have an elected assessor question on the ballot on November 4th.
All right. So we'll see how that part of it plays out. So no meeting today because you got people out of town at a conference. I can't imagine there's anything more important, though, than what's happening right now. But I understand these conferences end up happening. But basically, we're waiting to see how the courts handle both of these issues going forward, right?
Yeah, and we are, rallying the troops, so to speak. You may know I've filed a complaint through the Secretary of State's office against Frank, who's been using county taxpayer dollars to oppose the recall. I believe that's unlawful and that the Secretary of State's supposed to refer those matters to the local county prosecutor is how I understood it. He'll be in town on Thursday. We're actually doing a rally at the courthouse, 2:00 Tuesday, with a press conference to hear from the attorneys. And, folks that want to really know what's going on, if they attend that kind of thing, they hear the whole story. Unfortunately, the news only has so much time, so they don't get to, play the entire story. But if people want to hear for themselves, courthouse steps in downtown Kansas City at 2 p.m.
2 p.m. today.
No, 2 p.m. Thursday.
Thursday, sorry. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, Sean, we'll be following, and we appreciate you keeping us posted on what's going on this front.
Thanks, Pete. Have a
All
great
right,
day.
you as well. Sean Smith on KCMO. I mean, it's not Sean's fault. He didn't go, but what a waste of time and money. With everything going on in this county, you got elected legislators going to some conference where you learn how to actually run a county competently, I guess. These guys took 6 months to pass a budget. You got a county executive who's on the verge of being recalled. What are you doing? Right after the news on KCMO, we'll get to this. How the media unofficially died 1 year ago today.
Dave Ramsey here, and you're listening to Pete Mundo on KCMO Talk Radio, now airing on FM at 95.7.
Some may argue the media died long before this, but if you want to call it the final nail in the coffin, that is fine by me. That's what I would dub it 1 year ago today. So it was 1 year ago yesterday that President Trump, of course, nearly lost his life as then candidate Trump. And we saw a lot of coverage over the weekend about that, at least in certain areas and on certain platforms. A lot of people don't want to talk about it anymore because that might make him look like a human being, might make him look like a regular guy. But, for most Americans who want to follow this stuff, yesterday was obviously a historic anniversary. But it was also the anniversary of the day the media, broadly speaking, destroyed itself. I want to remind you on some of the headlines that we woke up to 1 year ago today. We had this from the Washington Post. Trump escorted away after loud noises at Pennsylvania rally. MSNBC, Secret Service, Trump saved after being rushed off of Pennsylvania stage after gunshot-like sounds. NBC News headline here. Secret Service rushes Trump off stage after popping noises heard at his Pennsylvania rally. Can't make this stuff up.
How dare you?
CNN. Trump injured in incident at Pennsylvania rally.
Fake news.
USA Today, David Jackson. This might be my favorite. I say that very much tongue-in-cheek. Trump removed from stage by Secret Service after loud noises startled former president and crowd.
He's a nut job.
Steve Carell. Loud noises!
Yes. That still is an all-timer right there. David Jackson, USA Today. Trump removed from stage by Secret Service after loud noises startles former president and crowd. It's like Kennedy visit to Dallas cut short.
Right.
I mean,
Touche.
Come on, guys. Like, I understand that, especially in the moments after, it wasn't totally clear what exactly had just happened. But you got to understand, it's very much like the story we talked about 1 hour ago regarding Heather Hall, the former Kansas City, Missouri councilwoman who was just selected to be on the Board of Police Commissioners in Kansas City, and she'll be here at 8:20. I just posted a long thread about this on X at Pete Mundo. But the media is very careful in how it uses its headlines to further a certain narrative. And the immediate narrative that the media was trying to pursue here was one of, do not feel sympathetic towards Donald Trump. Do not give this guy any benefit of the doubt. Do not humanize him. Do not, and especially for a media that's happy to jump to conclusions on a lot of things. Suddenly, not only did they not jump to conclusions, which is good to do when someone almost loses their life like this, but they were so slow to note the obvious that they carefully pick and choose their words in a way that makes sure you have more questions than answers, and you also don't have any sympathy towards this figure who everybody in the world watched just nearly lose his life. That's the purpose. That's the reason that they go down the road they choose to go down with these ridiculous and absurd headlines from places like the Associated Press, Washington Post, USA Today, CNN. The AP had this one as well. Donald Trump escorted off stage by Secret Service during a rally after loud noises ring out in the crowd. I mean, I understand moments after there still is some uncertainty here, but you've got to be kidding me with that. That's as bad as it gets. But to me, that was also the day that anybody who was still like trying to give some of these more mainstream outlets the benefit of the doubt, that was the day that it should have ended for a lot of people. How that was covered after the fact. 913-408-7957 is our studio line and our text line on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. The president also, put out a statement on this last night. And what I really appreciated about his statement 1 year after he nearly lost his life is that more of the statement was about the country and what the country's been through, and also about Corey Comparator, the firefighter and the veteran, the husband and the father who lost his life that day, who also lost his life protecting his wife and his two daughters who were behind the stage with him at the rally. And that's a name that the president, anytime he talks about this, he oftentimes will reference Corey. And let's be honest, most Americans are not going to remember in 5, 10, 15, 20 years Corey Comparator. They're just not going to remember his name. It's sad, but it's a reality of the situation. It's just, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. His name is not going to be remembered by most Americans. They'll remember it as the day that Donald Trump almost was assassinated, but they're not going to remember his name. It's human nature. For right or for wrong, it's human nature. But almost every time you hear Trump talk about it, he talks about Corey. He brings up his name. He brings up his wife. He brings up his daughters. And for a guy that media spent about 10 years trying to basically cover in a way that does not humanize him at all, he's largely cut through it in ways like this, in talking about Corey, despite the fact that all people want to talk about is him and his reaction. And, the president is saying, I got to get my shoes on, got to get my shoes on. One of the all-time great Trump lines, right? The guy just gets shot in the ear, comes within a quarter inch of his life of losing it. He's down on the ground, Secret Service on top of him. And before he stands up, he says, I want to put my shoes on. And then he gets up there and he screams, fight, fight, fight. I think we'd all like to believe we'd react that way in that moment. But let's be honest, 99.9% of us would not, myself included. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to BS you and say I would have done that in real time. I wouldn't have. I would have lied there and I said, guys, tell me where I got to go and get me out of here. Not this guy. And nobody prepares for that moment in their lives, right? You just don't do it. And even if you maybe think about it in the back of your mind, you never really know in that fight or flight moment how your body and your brain are going to react to something like that. You can't prepare for it. And unless you're someone who's served in an active war zone, you have no idea what your body's going to do, how your brain's going to react, and how they're going to work together in that moment. And the way they work together for President Trump and the reaction that he had is also what made that an all-time moment in American history. It wasn't just the moment itself, it was the reaction to it. From his end and also from the media's end, where they outwardly and utterly embarrassed themselves in what was the final nail in their credibility coffin. Coming up, the good, the bad, and the ugly from the weekend. We will do it right after this on KCMO 95.7 FM.
from the nation's heartland. It's Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
7:48 on a Monday. Let's roll.
It's time for the good, the bad, and the ugly on KCMO Talk Radio. Now on 95.7 FM.
I'm not going to make my good this to rub it in anybody's face, okay? I said early this morning that I'm glad the Royals walked it off yesterday and got the win before the All-Star break after they blew a ninth-inning lead against my Mets. But I will say that over the weekend, I was there on Saturday. Kate and I brought all the girls, got tickets from a good friend. They were outstanding seats behind the Mets dugout. And it wasn't just the game that was a great time and the memories and all those things. I was also thinking back to the last time that we were at the K with the kids. Kate and I with the kids together at the K. And it was 6 years ago when the Mets were here back in 2019. That's the last time she was at a game. I've been to a bunch. I go probably a couple a year if I can. But her and I had not brought the kids together since we only had one kid 6 years ago. Claire was like 6 months old last time the Mets were here because the COVID year threw everything off when it came to, interleague play and things of that nature. So I was thinking back to 6 years ago when Claire was in a stroller. She's now 6.5. And it's so cliche, but it also is so true that the days are slow. But man, that day being at that game 6 years ago does not feel like it was basically 2,000 days ago that we did this last. Just doesn't feel like that to me. So whenever, we bump into people, whether it's the mall, the airport, a restaurant, and, they see you with 3 kids, 6 and under, they're like, oh, man, hands are full, but don't forget these years. They're great. They fly by. And you're like, okay, old lady. All right, Pops. All right, Grandpa. You're kind of like, yes, thanks so much. I'm drowning. I'm drowning here. I'm just trying to keep my head above water. But then when you think back to like being at a game 6 years ago and you only have one kid and that one kid is 6 months old and your life is so much different. And now you fast forward and you got 3 kids and you're thinking back to that moment 6 years ago and you're thinking about how your life has changed personally, professionally. All of a sudden you're like, okay, I get it. I understand what these people are saying. And then a part of you wants to also slow down time in the process. And it's just a lot of mixed emotions when you put those two thoughts and those two moments together and you think about what your life has been like the last few years. And for some reason, that was at the top of my mind over the weekend. I did share some photos from the game on the Instagram page at Pete Mundo and also on Facebook as well, if you want to see them there. But the Mets did get the win on Saturday, the game that we were at. Soto hit a home run. The girls had to take a break with the sun. It was hot, but we got back to the seats in time for that home run, which was a lot of fun, and they enjoyed it thoroughly as well. Now, the bad from the weekend is what happened downtown. There was a shooting downtown at about 11:30 on Friday night, 13th and Grand. I mean, what, a 3-minute walk from Power and Light? And then you wonder why the Royals are having second thoughts regarding spending $2 billion on a project in downtown Kansas City, Missouri. There are too many stories like this. KCPD confirmed they arrested 2 people after receiving a call that shots were being fired into an apartment complex on 13th and Grand just after 11:30 p.m. on Friday. It's not 2 a.m., not 3 a.m., not 4 a.m. You're talking 11:30. How many people are going to a show downtown, going to get a drink afterwards, and it's 11:30 at night? You could easily have parked in a parking garage right in that area of 13th and Grand. I know plenty of places I've parked at around there. And suddenly, you got the OK Corral breaking out on you. KCTV5 covered it, talked to a guy who had a viral video from that apartment complex, and here's what it sounded like.
It happened at the intersection of 13th and Grand Friday night. That's right by the T-Mobile Center. KCTV5's Ali Espinoza breaks down what we know as police investigate.
I didn't expect it to escalate like that. We were just like, oh, wow, he's really shooting right now. Like, that was an actual gun.
2 days later, and residents at this downtown apartment complex, like Leo Martinez, tell us they're still confused about what happened Friday night. now having 9 bullet holes line the side of their building.
I was literally like 5 windows down from like some windows that got shot. So I was just like, man, he missed us.
Man, he missed us. That's the guy on KCTV5 who took the video, was in the apartment complex, and then he went on to say this.
It's still unclear what led up to the shooting, but Martinez says besides the dramatic scene, he's thankful for his safety and police's response.
What can you do? There's millions of people in the city. It's bound to happen eventually. I think, obviously we don't want it to happen, but I think it's inevitable, and what can be done, who knows?
Yeah, well, real Mensa member there, clearly not listening to this show like he should. That's okay, Mr. Martinez. We'll take you any time here on 95.7 FM KCMO. First off, there are not millions of people in the city. There's 500,000, and there's a lot that you can do. More cops with more proactive policing is a great place to start. Creating an environment where thugs don't think they can terrorize downtown and get away with it on a Friday night at 11:30. That would be a great place to start. I don't know why they include these clips in these TV packages unless they got to fit and stretch to 2.5 minutes, because it's like that guy added nothing to the conversation there. And he was also just stating things that weren't factually true. But whatever, I guess it happens.
We have to imagine the people that didn't make it onto the TV. Sometimes they're working with the best of what they can get.
That's fair. I don't envy these TV reporters having to do the man on the street stuff. That's a great point, John. Now the ugly from the weekend. Elmo got hacked. Oh, no. Did you see this? Elmo got hacked on X. And it was really, really bad stuff. Elmo posting last night on X, the official Elmo account. Kill all Jews. Also, Elmo posting on X after getting hacked. Elmo says all Jews should die. F them. Donald Trump is Netanyahu's puppet because he is in the Epstein files. Jews control the world and need to be exterminated. That was posted on the Elmo X account. And it would appear as though Elmo has been selected as Columbia University's next president. I mean, how disturbing, sick, and twisted is that? Elmo's having a normal day. Somebody at PBS is not happy about the potential cuts for NPR and PBS.
Oh, boy, you wait. I'm going to show him. I'm going to hack Elmo.
Yeah, I'm going after Elmo. We'll get Elmo's account.
You're missing the audience there, buddy.
Yeah.
I can imagine Claire going, hey, Dad?
Yeah, seriously. Wow. And somewhere, Candace Owens is dying to land the first interview with Elmo as well.
Yeah.
That's out there, too. Unbelievable. That's pretty disturbing stuff. Ugh. And that's why you got to take all this stuff seriously, because there's, frankly, too much of that out there on the far right and the far left. Sick and twisted. Coming up, we'll talk to Heather Hall at 8:20. But we do have new protests happening this week around Kansas City. Details next. I'm giving you 3 days of lead time on this one, John, so you can figure out something to wear to the protests that are going to be happening.
Okay, thanks.
Yep, happy to help. This Thursday, okay? Late afternoon, early evening. They literally made this protest at a time so that John Anthony has some headway on this whole deal. He can figure out what he's going to wear, and he can be home for his usual bedtime. This is put on by the AFT, American Federation of Teachers Union, is putting on these protests around the country coming up on July 17th. They're calling it Good Trouble. That's right. That's what the rally is being called. The protest is being called this week. AFT posting on social media over the weekend, "We are not spectators to history. We are the makers of it." And on July 17th, communities are coming together for Good Trouble Lives On, a nationwide day of peaceful, nonviolent action. This is Randy Weingarten's union. She's the one who wanted to make sure that kids never went back to school after COVID. She was more than happy to keep these kids in their homes, have their parents do all the work, and obviously leave the kids who are most vulnerable in the worst potential situations that you could imagine, running the streets, not going to class. And really, it has grown the wealth gap and will grow the wealth gap for probably a generation in this country. Randy Weingarten's AFT is putting on this protest, John.
Will this go on my permanent record? I was always told that would be a possibility in school.
Well, I suppose it depends on maybe which one you go to. There are multiple places in the area you can go to this rally. We've got one in Kansas City, Missouri that will be happening at 6 p.m. on Thursday at Swope Park. All right. You can go there. The other one is going to be in Mission. Got to have a good one in Mission. Mission Market is where that's going to happen.
Okay.
Right on the old Johnson Drive, or old stomping grounds there.
I'm a little embarrassed. My thinking cap's analog. It's all tubes and wires in this digital age, so I don't know if I'll stick out like a sore thumb there.
You may stick out like a sore thumb because you don't look like a lunatic. That's why. Another one's going to be happening in Lawrence.
I'd like to bring some wet chalk and a blackboard and just squeak chalk at him all day.
You might need a poncho on Thursday, 75% chance of rain.
Oh, is that right? Oh, boy, they're all going to melt, though, man. That's not going to be good. Get that rain date in, you know? So we got one in Lawrence, Buford M. Watson Jr. Park, right there on Kentucky Street. And then we also got one up in Platte City. How about that? All over the map. Platte City's hosting one, too. So we got 4 here in the Kansas City area. Warrensburg, if you want to include that one, too. So this is obviously a carefully coordinated event that's being put on. This is not some grassroots deal. This is well-funded. They write here on the About This Event page that I'm looking at, on July 17th, the anniversary of Congressman John Lewis's passing, we're taking action across the country to defend our democracy and carry forward his legacy of good trouble. From voter suppression bills like the SAVE Act to the criminalization of protest, the Trump administration is launching a full-scale attack on our civil and human rights. But we know the truth. In America, the power lies with the people, and we're rising to prove it. Make it make sense. Please, make it make sense.
She's a real beauty.
The power lies with the people. Yes, the people did speak on November 5th of last year, and they voted for much of what is happening right now. Literally, everything that Trump is doing over the last few months, he campaigned on, he talked about. There's very little here that's going on that was not discussed in the lead up to November 5th. So to say, we know the truth, the power lies with the people, and then saying everything that's happening right now is against what the people want, it may be against what you want, and that's fine. That's your prerogative. But it's not against what a lot of the people want, because this is what a lot of people, in fact, the majority of Americans voted for back on November 5.
Well, they claim to know the truth, but they certainly don't speak it.
Well, that's true.
All these actions that they have cited have been going on for literally decades. Suddenly they're aware since January.
Yeah, that's right. This is more than a protest. It's a moral reckoning, a continuation of the movement Lewis helped lead, and a new front in the struggle for freedom. A core principle behind our Good Trouble Lives On actions is a commitment to nonviolence in all that we do. Well, thank you for that caveat. We expect all participants to seek to de-escalate any potential confrontation with those who disagree on our values. So, got a bunch of locations here this week: Kansas City, Swope Park, Mission, Lawrence, Warrensburg, and Platte City. So pick your poison there, John. Wherever you want to go, you can go this Thursday, late afternoon, early evening. It's all yours, my man.
Wherever they're serving snacks. That'll be the one I'm going to.
Oh,
Got
man.
A good chance that the Platte City ones will bring a covered dish protest.
Yeah. That's great. Now, speaking of this, one of the things that they are supposedly protesting is voter suppression. This week, and others convinced Rob Manfred, the Major League Baseball commissioner, that Georgia was going to be suppressing voters, notably minorities. That was the big push because of state legislation they were passing. Now, as you may recall, in the wake of that bill passing, what actually happened the last couple of election cycles, there were record numbers of minorities who went to vote in Georgia. Whoa, wait, what? Wait, how is that possible? We were told, and it reminds me of the conversation going on right now when it comes to Medicaid, everyone's going to get thrown off Medicaid. No minority is going to be able to vote in Georgia. That was what was happening 4 years ago. They moved the All-Star game out of Georgia. They sent it to Colorado, where actually they had at the time tougher voter laws than they did in Georgia. And now, 4 years later, we've done a total 180. It's back in Georgia this week where it's supposed to be. Like so much in this country, we have done a 180 for the better from where we were 4 years ago. And the All-Star game this week happening in Atlanta is going to be just another example of that. The lies, and that's what they were from 4 years ago, were proven to be inaccurate by the facts, by the data, by the number of voters that came out in Georgia elections the last couple of years. And now Major League Baseball has egg on its face. And they should. I mean, Rob Manfred is probably going to do the whole song and dance, dog and pony show. It's great to be here. We love Atlanta. It's like, dude, not that he's coming on this show. There's no reason for him to do anything in Kansas City. But I'm not giving this guy a pass. He totally embarrassed himself 4 years ago. And if sports media had any honest bone left in its body, and it doesn't, sports media is further left than news media, there would be someone who would be asking Rob Manfred and shaming Rob Manfred over this. But I promise you that is not going to happen this week at the Major League Baseball All-Star Game. It won't happen. Heather Hall is a former Kansas City, Missouri councilwoman. She got a big nod over the weekend. Mike Kehoe appointed her to the Kansas City Board of Police Commissioners. So what does that mean? What does she want to do? She's always had the cops backing. What can she do in this new role? And I'll also ask her about how she was portrayed in local media. Coming up next on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM.
Stream Mundo in the morning on the KCMO Talk Radio app.
Governor Kehoe made the announcement late last week that former Kansas City, Missouri City Councilwoman Heather Hall would be joining the Kansas City Board of Police Commissioners. If you're not familiar with the process, of course, the mayor serves on the Board of Police Commissioners, and then the governor appoints other members who are Kansas City residents to oversee the police department to, the goal is to take the politics out of policing as much as possible. Heather Hall now joins us on KCMO Talk Radio. Congratulations, Heather. Thanks for being here on KCMO.
Well, good morning, Pete. Thank you so much. It's an honor.
Well, let me first ask you about the Kansas City Star coverage of this, where they call you in the headline, wife of former KCPD sergeant. Now, listen, you're obviously happily married. Eben's a great guy, but I couldn't help but be insulted on behalf of you with that headline, basically just saying the wife of a cop picked by the governor to be on the Board of Police Commissioners. How did you interpret that?
Well, first of all, I interpreted it that it was funny that the story came out only 30 minutes after this random number had left me a voicemail asking for a quote for a story, but yet they didn't wait for me to return a phone call. And then they went ahead with the story about me without me even having a quote in it. So I thought that was ironic.
Yeah, it's a good point. But, I guess that's par for the course, right?
I wasn't expecting anything less, but it's disappointing that the assumption is that there's nothing else that the governor would look at when he's going to appoint someone.
Well,
and I think that's offensive to him.
That to me was the insinuation that, first off, his decision-making was just you're the wife of a cop, and then insulting to you as if you don't have a career of your own as a, two-term member of the city council, time on the Clay County Board of Elections, and obviously involved in multiple charities around Kansas City. None of that matters. Just let's write the headline, wife of cop picked by Governor Kehoe. So, but I guess, as you know this media town as well as I do, very much on brand for what came out of that piece. Fair?
Sure. And I appreciate your concern for me, Pete, but this is something that has been just, like you said, par for the course. I didn't even acknowledge the affront. It's that bad.
Okay.
So it didn't affect me, didn't hurt my feelings, I didn't care. What I think is disappointing is that the person who made the quote, I don't even know who that is. And it's disappointing that that people don't get to know you before they just say bad things about you. If I said the same kind of thing about someone, I would be in trouble for slander or something. So I find it ironic.
Well, that's a good point, too.
It's disappointing.
Part of the formula is they find activists that no one's ever heard of and treat them like they're, important people that mean anything, and they just aren't. So let's get to this question then. You're going back. You're going to be on the Board of Police Commissioners. You're going to be locking horns again with Mayor Lucas, who's on the board. You looking forward to that?
Well, what I'm looking forward to is hopefully that he'll be in agreement with me on the things we need to do for the police department and the citizens of our city. I have worked when I was on the council for 7.5 of the 8 years to get a jail in Kansas City. And we're almost to the finish line. And it will be really nice to be able to say that we're seeing something that that I wanted 7.5 years ago even under Sly James. I wanted this jail, and now we're finally going to get to talk about it. And, I'm really hopeful that Mayor Lucas will be on the same page with me and say that this is something the city of Kansas City needs.
Now, when you say what's left?
Well, what's left is, obviously building the jail.
But it's all approved, right? I mean, there's nothing for you to do on the Board of Police Commissioners on that front.
Hopefully nothing changes. That's right. But I always, until the doors are opened and things are happening, then I always am holding my breath a little bit.
What's the timeline on that again?
Well, I'm not exactly sure, Pete. So I don't want to talk out of turn and tell you something I don't know.
No, that's fair
coming
enough.
Up.
So with your role now on the Board of Police Commissioners, obviously you had the backs of law enforcement in this community during a very difficult time when a lot of people didn't, 2020, 2021, and thereafter. What do you want to bring personally to this board and how you go about doing your job on the Board of Police Commissioners?
Well, I want to be honest and I want to have integrity in the process. I want to make sure that every time we make a vote, it's for the betterment of the people of this city as well as the officers who are fighting for the people of this city. You know, people don't seem to understand. They think law enforcement and economic development don't match. Well, if you don't have a foundational safe city, just like your earlier segment on what happened at 13th Street the other day, that's at 11 o'clock at night. Most people are coming out of, you know, a theater or maybe an event at the T-Mobile Center. That's not an unusual time of day for a lot of people to be out. And for that to happen, that's not okay. We need more officers on the streets. We need more funding for those officers on the streets. And if we don't have a safe city, people don't move here. People don't bring their business here, less taxes, less everything. And so it is really critical that we keep fighting for that. And that's what I'm going to do.
Do you feel like right now the relationship between the Board of Police Commissioners, as you understand it, which you're about to join, and the City Council is better than it's been in some time, or is there still some work that needs to be done on that front?
Well, I think that the board is really engaged in city things now, and I think it used to be a big chasm. The board didn't really get involved with the city council stuff, and the city council didn't really get involved in the board. But now there has been in the last year or so a transition where the board is more welcoming to the city council, and the city council is more confident to go over there and say, hey, here's what's going on in my district, or here's what's happening over here that we need help with. So my hope is that I have a great relationship with a lot of the people on the city council still, and those folks have been very appreciative and excited that I'm taking this new role. So I really believe we can, you know, cross the street and talk to each other and be more open about the things that we need to do together. Because if the board doesn't help the city council help their citizens, and the council is not listening to their citizens say we need more police in our community to talk to the board about, then they're never going to work together. We can't be two silos.
I don't want to put you in a tough spot here, Heather Hall, but now that you're on the Board of Police Commissioners for Kansas City, Missouri, you represented Kansas City, Missouri, but you also are a Clay County resident. Where do you want to see the two professional sports teams go?
Wow. I don't think I have a comment on that one right now. That's a big one. I don't know. I don't want to answer that question, Pete.
That's fine.
I have an answer for that.
I'll just leave it here with a little
I
dead
will
air
say-
and let you keep
yeah.
going until you pull something out that sounds
I
good.
will have a comment, though. I'll have a comment on your 3 children under 6, though. That was a great comment this morning. I had 3 children under the age of 6, and now they're much older, and I'm even planning a wedding for one of them. So I'm telling you what, Pete, it does go fast, and every single minute is so critical. So I'm hoping, and I know you and your wife are enjoying every minute of it, even though you're sleep deprived and exhausted, and you're playing zone defense, not man to man. It's tough this time.
That's a great pivot, Heather Hall.
tell
You're
you
going to
that.
do a great job on the Board of Police Commissioners, and we're looking forward to having many more conversations with you as you get settled into that role. What's the official start date?
The official start date will be the July board meeting. So
Okay.
I get sworn in, and then we'll start. And then because I'm a not during session appointment, I will have to get actually approved by the Senate in January when they
Gotcha.
return to session. So I'm a mid-season appointment. So it won't be official through the governor's office as far as the Senate goes. Until then.
Well,
I'm looking forward to hitting the ground running because our police and our officers and our department and the people are too important.
well, thank you, Heather Hall. We appreciate it. We'll be talking to you more soon.
Thanks, Pete. Have a great day.
There you go. Heather Hall, new member of the Board of Police Commissioners on KCMO. Great to have her on and great to hear her voice again on KCMO. Coming up, what did Patrick Mahomes say about the stadium? That plus a father-son duo. Does all 30, where do they rank Kaufman next?
Call Mundo 913-408-7957. Now on 95.7 FM.
Patrick Mahomes has spoken in an interview on CNBC, of all places. He was on the CNBC interview. I think it was only on one of their digital platforms. It didn't look like it was something that they ran on TV. It was a 13-minute conversation. So it was on CNBC Sport is where it aired. It's a subsidiary of CNBC, but I don't think this entire 13-minute interview aired on CNBC. But he was on there to talk about this new coffee that he's invested in, Throne Sport Coffee. So we all know what the game was and how this was being played. But to their credit, the CNBC anchor did ask about Kansas or Missouri. Where does Patrick Mahomes want to be playing towards what could be the tail end of his career come the early 2030s? And here's what he told CNBC.
Which of these do you prefer?
You know, it's really out of my control, honestly. But I think Arrowhead's a special place. It's a special place that doesn't come around a lot of times. It's my favorite place to play in the NFL, not just because it's my team, but you can feel the history of it when you play. But I know Kansas has done a great bit as well. And, I mean, they would build a great stadium and facility. It'd be the top of the top. And so I don't really have a choice in the matter anyways, but I think either way, we can't go wrong because we have the fan base of the Chiefs Kingdom behind us, and they'll fill that stadium no matter if it's in Missouri or Kansas. So I'm just excited for the future of the Kansas City Chiefs.
What a good politician. What a good politician there from Patrick Mahomes. He wants to stay. Let's be very clear. He's doing the Mahomes thing. He's doing the politician thing. Yeah, Kansas, it really would be great. They do a great job. They build a nice stadium. But you can hear it in his voice. You can read between the lines on that. He doesn't want to go to Kansas. He wants to stay. And he wants to stay for what I believe the reasons are. The average fan wants to stay. They like it. It gets the job done. New stadium, comes more suites, higher ticket prices, squeezes the average fan even further, doesn't connect with them, doesn't work. Lose all the memories. All those things that regular people think about, that I think about when going to games, whether it's as a kid, with my dad, whether it's now taking my kids, like I did to the K on Saturday, or just going with friends. Those everyday things, those experiences that you get from a stadium, the memories that you have matter. And Patrick Mahomes just said as much in that 35-second clip. He was trying to be nice about it. He knows that he can't come out and say, yeah, I want to stay in Missouri. I want to stay at Arrowhead. He can't say it that bluntly. Ownership won't let him. They're working both sides of the state line against each other. But if Patrick Mahomes really wanted to play the middle of the road, he would have just said, guys, I can't comment on that right now. Ownership is doing its thing. We got two great options. I'm going to let the chips fall where they may. He didn't. He talked about Arrowhead. He talked about it being a special place. He talked about feeling the history. He didn't have to do that. He chose to do that. He went out of his way to do that. And there's nothing this guy says that's by mistake. He's smart. He's savvy. Not a rookie, wide-eyed, who has no idea what he's doing. He knew exactly where he was going to go with this question. And he answered it, frankly, in an honest way, and frankly, more honest than I would have imagined he would have answered this question.
He's smooth.
Yeah, he was very smooth about it.
Well, right, if he says, I don't really want to comment.
Yeah.
Now we all make assumptions.
Mm-hmm.
We fill that vacuum with our own thoughts. Right?
Absolutely.
No, he sucks up to both sides there.
A little
Kisses,
bit.
Yep. It's all good to him. He doesn't have a choice, which is
And he did say that too. He didn't have a choice. But I get the sense that this guy is not looking to play anywhere else other than Arrowhead Stadium. Now, I'm not saying that's the reason that Clark Hunt may decide to stay. But certainly doesn't hurt. Now, Mahomes, by the time you get to 2031, he is going to be 36 years old. And who knows what the gut looks like by then. I can't get over the news cycle last week. I can't get over it. It's just this people just lose their minds sometimes. Oh my gosh. People that just don't even know what's going on with this radio station or this town or, the amazing and great Kevin Keatsman have just lost their minds. They really have. This world has broken so many people on social media. But he's going to be older. You don't know what exactly his status is going to be at that point in time, but it does make you wonder, how much of a say does he ultimately have? I don't think he's a key decision maker, and nor should he be when you're talking about a multi-billion-dollar decision that is going to go out 30, 40, 50 years, but it probably doesn't hurt. 913-408-7957. Let's go to Tammy in Shawnee. Hey, Tammy, good morning. You're on KCMO.
Good morning, Pete. Hey, listening to that clip, for me, the most important thing was the fact that he was letting us know that he's going to stay in Kansas City. He wants to retire and become part of the Chiefs Hall of Fame. That's what's important to him, and he recognizes what a great community Kansas City is. And he's not going to go off and be a Joe Montana and leave us and go somewhere else and retire. And in this day and age where they could make so much more money, and Lord knows he could, that's saying something about his character.
Well, Tammy, from your lips, I'll just say that much. You never know how these relationships play out between stars and teams. They usually break down at the end. I mean, history would suggest, whether it's Montana, whether it's Tom Brady, whether it's Aaron Rodgers,
Peyton Manning.
Yep. I mean, history would suggest they usually don't finish out where they started. Obviously, we all want that to not happen in this relationship. The main thing, though, is that you get the prime years out of the quarterback in your community, right? And that's the big thing. And that for Mahomes, as he gets set to turn, 30 this year, you got to figure at least 5 years, easily 5 years, right? That's where you get to the point where you say to yourself, okay, at 35 after that, you're probably playing with house money. Most people are not going to be Tom Brady at, 42, 43. I think he was 44 his last year playing in the NFL. It's just too much wear and tear on the body. Steve in Merriman, go ahead, Steve. You're on KCMO.
Hey, good morning to you.
What's up, my man?
It just occurred to me after listening for whatever years, it's coming to my realization there should be one and only one answer for anyone who is not an owner or an owner's representative. And Mahomes touched on that when he talked about, the great Chiefs kingdom and fans. Everybody's answer should be they want the stadium result that's in the best interest of the fan base and the taxpayer. Because honestly, outside of the owners, that's all everyone else should be interested in. I guess maybe to some degree the players, but more than anything, the answer should be what result is in the best interest of the fan base and the taxpayers. That's what we should be thinking about.
Yeah.
The owners have the right to think about, hey, what's in the best interest of us?
And you're right. I mean, and there's no doubt about it that 2 new stadiums will come with more suites and more things that appeal to Fortune 500 companies and things like that. But that's irrelevant to average fans. Sitting in section, 322 at Arrowhead or 427 at Kauffman Stadium. Those things just don't matter. And yes, the taxpayer should be a part of this conversation as well. But let's just be honest, the taxpayer was shipped down the river a long time ago in this process. But the one thing that, continues to come up here is how much more money can these teams make with a new stadium? And while theoretically more suites mean more money, you do have a finite number of major corporations that can afford suites for 2 professional sports teams, right? So there is a cap to how much money you can make on this stuff in Kansas City compared to, say, Dallas or Los Angeles make on this or some of the other larger markets in the NFL and Major League Baseball. That's why the Royals blueprint is really a lot more about trying to make money when it comes to apartments and office space and restaurants and bars with some other type of entertainment district than it is about maybe more suites inside of a stadium,
Yeah,
John.
it's like having an off-season job.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Got to have some off-season income.
Get that? That's a good analogy. Players back in the old days going to
Yeah.
drive cabs and, sell suits and things like that.
Lenny was on Channel 9.
Yeah, those days as well. You're right about that. You go back to Babe Ruth, who was playing, off-season baseball for a couple of bucks, hitting home runs
Wherever.
and
Anywhere.
wherever he could, traveling the country, doing that whole song and dance. So that's the kind of stuff that needs to be thought about more. You're right about that, Steve. Good call. 913-408-7957. We got a Rosie O'Donnell update for you here. Oh, let's go. Woo! Let's go. The big guy had some words for Rosie yesterday after she once again went on TikTok and was none too pleased with what his administration is doing. We'll play that for you coming up on KCMO Talk Radio. In the meantime, as you're getting going on a Monday, you're maybe coming out of your holiday week. You might have been off last week for a long vacation stemming from Independence Day. Well, you're thinking about, hey, I got to do this bathroom. Something's got to change. I'm sick of this thing. Just needs to be updated. My friends at The Plumbing Pro can help you out today. They're taking care of the KCMO audience right now with $2,000 off and 12 months same as cash with approved credit when you use The Plumbing Pro for your bathroom remodel. You go to their website, theplumbingpro.com, and Steve and his team will have a very simple process where they'll give you a quote. The people who give you the quote will be involved with the process from start to finish. You're not getting handed off from one part of the company to another with some national firm. They're locally owned, they're locally operated, and they've been doing this in Kansas City for the better part of 50 years. 1978 is when the Plumbing Pro started with residential and commercial plumbing in Kansas City. And 45, nearly 50 years later, they have earned the trust of Kansas City with a 4.8 star on Google reviews out of 5. And also, yes, doing all the new tub and shower replacements that you could ask for. Go to theplumbingpro.com. That's theplumbingpro.com and tell them about Pete's deal, $2,000 off and 12 months, same as cash.
Hey, it's Kevin Keatsman. Stick around. I'm coming up at 10 o'clock right after Pete Mundo on KCMO 95.7 FM.
We've got Act 3 of the Donald Trump v. Rosie O'Donnell ongoing drama. As Rosie decided to move to Ireland, she left the country, but she still has a level 11 TDS. Here's what I don't get. I give her credit for going, but you would think that she would leave, and the whole point of leaving would be to improve her mental health and just get out of Dodge, right, and not think about Trump. But if you're going to obsess over Trump, you might as well just stay in the country, right? You might as well just enjoy all that America has to offer if you're going to spend every waking moment obsessing over the guy who you claim to have left the country over, John.
I would posture that she didn't leave the country or she's back, because her verbiage is always when she's complaining, hey, Donald Trump's ruining this country. I'm like, he's not ruining Ireland, Rosie.
No,
Wait
you're
a
right.
minute. Now, it may be a misspeak, but I'll question whether she left now at this point.
That is a good conspiracy.
Maybe too many people giving her credit for leaving. I'm not sure. Always a close-up on the face. Don't see the background. We don't see her little buddies, the squirrels and different things. She must not have adopted any over there. So.
The other thing, too, to your point, Rosie should know better. She can't be that close to her own face on these videos.
Right?
It's really not a good
No
look.
wonder she's got anxiety.
So here's what happened over the weekend. On Saturday, Trump floated the idea of revoking her U.S. citizenship. He posted on Truth Social, quote, because of the fact that Rosie O'Donnell is not in the best interests of our great country, I'm giving serious consideration to taking away her citizenship. She is a threat to humanity and should remain in the wonderful country of Ireland if they want her. And then all caps, God bless America.
She's a real beauty.
Oh, my gosh, that is so good. So then Rosie responds on Sunday with one of these weird selfies, way too close up on her face, and says this about Donald Trump.
He's put this country in so much danger by his horrible...
There it is right there, John. She's put this country...
Yeah, I was referring to the last one, but there it was right there.
Yeah, that was it again right there. Here we go.
He's put this country in so much danger by his horrible decisions and this ridiculously immoral bill that he just signed into law. As Republicans cheered.
Oh, yeah.
As Republicans cheered. People will die as a result, and they've started already. Shame on him. Shame on every GOP sycophant who's listening and following the disastrous decisions of this mentally incapacitated POTUS.
What's a sycophant? Still trying to figure that one out. Isn't it exhausting to insist that everyone's going to die when one side of the aisle passes legislation? I mean, even when Joe Biden was passing a lot of his nonsense, trust me, there was basically none of it that I liked. And we would talk about some of the nuances around, like, why this will continue to devalue the currency. This will continue to cause more inflation. Here's why, parts of the Green New Deal won't work. The Inflation Reduction Act will not reduce inflation. I remember having these conversations, but I don't remember saying, like, we're all going to die. The only thing that just comes to mind that actually was life and death when it comes to Joe Biden's policies was literally his border policies. Because he had people who came across the border while he turned a blind eye to the issue, who were in the country illegally, who should have never been in the country, who then did go out there and commit heinous crimes, including murder. Like, that is a direct correlation of a policy leading to the death of somebody. But more so what you see on the other side is this idea of, like, well, this is going to end up with people dying, climate change, and, everyone's going to lose their Medicaid, and all these things that are just put out there by people like Rosie O'Donnell that aren't backed in any way. It's just got to be exhausting. So that was Rosie on her Sunday update. And then Trump comes in last night when he lands back in the D.C. area following his day watching soccer in New Jersey. And he gets asked about Rosie, and he has this great singer.
Rosie O'Donnell, she went on Chris Cuomo's show recently. She blamed you for the fact that she's overweight. depressed, and drunk. What do you say to that? Do you think
She blamed you for the fact that she's depressed, overweight, and drunk? Oh, gosh. Overweight and Trump gets this little smirk on his face, and here's what he says. Oh, no, I got to restart it. I hit the wrong button. Sorry. You're going to have to hear that question again. It's pretty good anyway.
Rosie O'Donnell, she went on Chris Cuomo so recently. She blamed you for the fact that she's overweight, depressed, and drunk. What do you say to that? Do you think PDS is going to ever be a DSM-5 diagnosis?
I don't know about Rosie. I watch Rosie. Rosie's a mess. She's a mess. But she left our country, which is a good thing, not a bad thing.
Oh, my gosh.
Show some RESPICT.
Gosh, you just can't make it up. This is just so good. I'm ready for Act 4, whenever that comes down next. I mean, the guy's doing so much, and in between all this, he's having a great back and forth with Rosie O'Donnell. What about that Kansas City radio host who also fled the country? Guy literally left his solid job on a good radio station in Kansas City because he, like Rosie, had TDS. Go figure. Coming up on a more serious note, how the president responded 1 year after his near assassination, I thought was telling. I want to get your thoughts on it next. Yesterday, President Trump was asked plenty about the fact that it was 1 year since he nearly lost his life in Butler, Pennsylvania. Spent the day in New Jersey watching some FIFA Club World Cup action. Of course, the World Cup coming here to Kansas City in 1 year. But what stood out to me was the way the president answered the question late in the evening when he got back to the D.C. area about how he was processing the 1 year anniversary of the day that he nearly lost his life. And he answered it in a way that I would say in 2025, most people wouldn't answer it. He answered it in a way that's not in vogue today to answer a question like this. But he answered it in a way that I think was attractive to most of the American people, especially to most of the people who voted for him. Here's what he said.
On this 1 year anniversary of Butler, what was going through your mind this morning when you woke up? I know that you're praising God you're alive, but a lot of people want to know how you're taking this day on this 1 year anniversary.
God was protecting me. Maybe because God wanted to see our country do better or do really well, make America great again. But God was protecting me, Brian. I'll tell you, it's the more you think about it, the more you see it. But no, I don't like to think about it much. You know, I have a job to do, so I don't like to think about it much. It's a little bit of a dangerous profession being president, but I really don't like to think about it too much. I think you're better off not thinking about it.
I love that answer. I absolutely freaking love that answer. Now, we're in a world where you've got to be very in tune with your feelings and your emotions. And there are times when I think that matters, right? And that's important as a husband, a wife, a father, a mother, a son, a daughter, sister, brother, whatever it might be. There are times when that obviously matters in your life, and you need to be introspective. You need to be a little more emotional, a little more vulnerable. All that stuff's important. But Trump's basically saying, I'm not here to spend a lot of time on that. It's a dangerous job, and, you know, the numbers would suggest, based on the amount of assassinations and near misses, it is a dangerous job being president. I know we don't think about it like that in a traditional sense, but, you know, percentages would suggest it is a dangerous job, no matter which side of the political aisle you're on. And Trump just came out and said, I don't like to think about it. I got a job to do. I'm here to do that job on behalf of the American people. And for a guy who never needed this, right? Guy who had, just, and still does, don't get me wrong, has an incredible life. But the guy was beloved on both sides of the political aisle, had more money than he could ever spend, more money than he ever knew what to do with. Like, even if you didn't vote for the man, his life did not get inherently better after he entered the political arena. They tried to obviously take as much money from him as they could. They tried to throw him in jail. He nearly lost his life. And then we wonder why successful, regular people don't want to get involved in politics. Geez, I can't imagine why. You want to know why? I'll go help some charity that I have a real passion for. I'm not running for office. It's thankless. I'm limited in my powers. Unless you're motivated largely by ego and attention and possibly fame, you're not going to get into that line of work. And I'm not suggesting everybody that is in that line of work is there for the wrong reasons, but too many are. And that's why we have just really, really unimpressive people in our political landscape, from the federal level to the state level to the local levels, in way too many cases, because they're motivated for the wrong reasons. But Trump answering that question the way he did and said, I don't really like to think about it. That's not what the media wants, but it's the right answer. Because the American people, we think about it. I think about where I was. And, we talked about this a little bit this morning in a touchdown on Friday leading up to yesterday's anniversary. But you haven't really heard Trump in multiple interviews now getting asked about this and really saying anything outside of what he's already said, which is basically God was on my side. I feel for the families or the family that lost a loved one that day. And basically, I'm moving on. I've got a job to do. And I'm glad I'm here, and I'm glad that God was on my side. That's all he says. And I respect the heck out of his answer on that front. And, I think that that's the right answer that a lot of the American people appreciate. Even if there is a little more introspection privately and a little more emotion privately, it doesn't necessarily in this moment need to be on display publicly. Now, speaking of things that are on display publicly, that would be the beef that continues between President Trump and Jerome Powell, the Fed chair. Trump is just crushing this guy right now. He's continuing to just beat up Jerome Powell. He wants interest rates lowered. We continue to drive up that federal debt, $37 trillion. And now we've got billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars that we are spending to service the debt of the country. It remains unsustainable. So last night, the president said this about Fed Chair Jerome Powell.
I think if Jerome Powell stepped down, it would be a great thing. I don't know that he's going to, but he should. Jerome Powell's been very bad for our country. We should have the lowest interest rate on, and we don't. He just refuses to do it.
Now, maybe that's just Trump being hyperbolic, but if we had the lowest interest rates on earth, we'd be a third world country. Remember that graph that Caroline Leavitt showed at the White House press briefing a couple of years ago or a couple of weeks ago, where she showcased all these countries that have lower interest rates than America? To use Trump's words, they were all S-hole countries for the most part. Like they were bottom of the barrel, pieces of crap countries. There's a reason that they have low interest rates. They have to. They're third world operations that would be even in worse shape if their interest rates were anywhere close to ours. If we just artificially lower our rates right now, you are going to see inflation come back. There's no doubt in my mind. And nothing would hurt the regular worker right now more than inflation coming back to the forefront. That's why what has to happen is that Congress actually needs to cut spending. And they failed to do it in the big, beautiful bill in any meaningful way. They did some of it, not enough of it. I understand the politics of why they couldn't do more of it, but look at this little $9 billion rescissions package they're trying to pass. Claw back $9 billion in spending for USAID and NPR and PBS. It's like they can't even get that done. I saw Roger Marshall here, our Kansas U.S. Senator. He was on one of the cable news channels this morning going out there and basically lobbying for this $9 billion rescissions package cut. Just do it. I mean, how is it possible that a Republican Congress can't get through $9 billion in cuts for NPR, PBS, and USAID? How is this taking as long as it's taken? So Trump's frustration on that front should really be with his own caucus, should really be with the Republicans in the House and the Senate that can't get $9 billion in cuts done on no-brainer stuff. Never mind the big things that have to happen to get the country fiscally on the right track. Jerome Powell was way late back in 21 on inflation. He did maybe try to lower the rates last year to help Joe Biden before the election or Kamala Harris before the election. All those things are fair to critique and point out. It doesn't mean that he's wrong right now to hold the rates where they're at. Because the far bigger problem when it comes to our issues and devaluing the dollar is Congress not doing its job. And that's where Trump's got to corral these guys and gals and get them going on that front. Now, speaking of NPR and PBS, something happened over the weekend on one of our local stations. And I was just chomping at the bit to get in there and get in the mix and get in the conversation.
It's Mundo in the Morning. Now on FM at 95.7. Set a preset on your radio. KCMO Talk Radio.
I was chomping at the bit to jump through the television and join the panel on Kansas City Week in Review over the weekend. I watch it. I'm on there once in a while. I don't know, every couple of months or so. Whenever my good friend Nick Haynes feels like he can get away with having me on there without pissing off the whole NPR staff and PBS staff, he has me on, which I appreciate. I mean, to his credit, he is looking for diverse viewpoints on that show. They're hard to find around Kansas City media, but I'm happy to do the job whenever called upon. Whenever called upon. But it's a good show. They cover the Kansas City news cycle in a very efficient way for the week prior. So I watch it. I mean, Nick does a great job in terms of hosting that show, and he has great pacing on the show. And, you know, he and I are on the same page because I can tell when someone's dragging on and he's like, come on, get your ass, spit it out, and let's keep the show moving. He understands the importance of pacing in media. And I'm watching over the weekend, and of course they're talking about, you know, the big beautiful bill and Medicaid and the impacts on Kansas and Missouri and a lot of the things that we covered last week on the show. So this comes up, and Nick throws out a question that was asked by a viewer. And then it got responded to by NPR newsman Brian Ellison. And here's what had me ready to jump through the TV.
Rights. How does removing people who are physically capable of working from the Medicaid program could actually lead to the closing of rural hospitals, Brian?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Richard. You know, the reality is that is a talking point that has been part of the support for cutting Medicaid that is not actually borne out by the facts. KFF had a study earlier this spring that said that studied Americans under the age of 65 who are on Medicaid. 64% of them are working. 12% of them who are not working because they're caregiving. 10% are not working because they've been injured. 7% are not working because they are in school as students. In fact, only 8% of Americans on Medicaid under the age of 65 are either retired or looking for work or not looking for work. There's a really small percentage. That's not who's affected the most by these Medicaid cuts. It's a broader cross-section of people.
That has nothing to do with the question. First off, citing the Kaiser Family Foundation, that's just a liberal think tank, and, you know, they're going to skew stats however they want to skew them. But the question was a simple one from a reader to Kansas City PBS, and good on that reader, Richard. The question was, and I'll play it again here real quick so you can hear it. I'm not going to replay the whole answer, but the question.
Rights. How does removing people who are physically capable of working from the Medicaid program could actually lead to the closing of rural hospitals, Brian?
It's not. And he never answered that question. He just threw out all this data from the Kaiser Family Foundation, which is, you know, at best, a left of center think tank operation. And then you say, well, 65% of people are working under 65 on Medicaid, 12% are caregivers, 10% are injured, only 8% are retired, looking or not looking for work under the age of 65 on Medicaid. So only theoretically then, that 8% might be in danger of losing their Medicaid. And if they go work for 20 hours a week or they go volunteer for 20 hours a week, they're not losing anything. So rolling out these stats from this think tank doesn't answer the question that was posed there. How will rural hospitals go bankrupt by the new Medicaid policies that were implemented in the big, beautiful bill? And the answer is they're not going to, because they're not targeting the hospitals themselves. They're targeting individuals who might be abusing the system. That's it. The issue with rural hospitals run much deeper. It's more about the problems that exist in rural America, whether it's the healthcare industry, the public safety industry, where they've got, I mean, I know guys who are in rural Kansas, right? They're running sheriff's departments, and they're paying like $14 an hour to a guy in an entry level to carry a gun and work at the sheriff's department. I mean, it's an embarrassment. There are issues in rural America, and to suggest that the big, beautiful bill's changes to Medicaid is the thing that will drive hospitals into bankruptcy. It's just not the case, John.
When in doubt, dump numbers. The big number dump is what they do. They don't answer the question. It's just, 17% of pi r squared is.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. That's what this was. Okay? This was a terrible answer that provided no insight, no intel, and had nothing to do with the question that was asked. It's just, let me read you these percentages from a liberal think tank. And it's like, okay, and I kept waiting for that. And, I mean, at least give me something to work with here, right? Something that at least proves your point. There was nothing there that proved the point on why rural hospitals are going to go belly up because of the big, beautiful bill. Nothing whatsoever. So these issues run much deeper. But once again, if you just want a big talking point, I guess you'll get it on this stuff because once again, we're all going to die. Right? That's the name of the game.
Right?
Eventually, yes.
See, that'll be true at some point.
Yes. Roger Marshall, Kansas U.S. Senator, he actually was talking about this with CNBC over the weekend, and he alluded to the fact that we have 7 million healthy American men of working age who are not working right now. And we've talked about that number that's been out there for many years now. He said, let's help those people find a job, help them get off Medicaid. And that's the big thing. There's something that going back into the workforce does for you. I've seen it firsthand with friends who have been out of work for a little bit, and then they get back into the office setting, so to speak. They got some swagger, some confidence, lose some weight. It's healthy to be a productive member of society. It's healthy to challenge yourself. I'll give you an anecdotal example. Keatsman's buddy at Window World. We got some new windows in the house a few months ago. And Window World did a tremendous job. Not that you need to hear me talk about it, but they did a great job on our windows. And for 3 months now, I have delayed putting up the blinds that we had up because it wasn't obvious to me how to do it. The way the windows were put in, I couldn't put the blinds back into the holes that they were in because these windows were wider. So I'm looking at this thing. I can't really figure out how to do it. No one's going to confuse me as the handyman. That's just not who I am. I do a decent job. I try. But yesterday, it was just me and Charlotte, the little one. Mom had the older two out. And I said, I can figure this out. So the first one took me an hour. I figured out how to screw these things in the right place and get the blinds up. And then I did 6 more of them. And each one obviously was faster and faster and faster. And I'm telling you what, that made my week. There's nothing I did here at work. There's nothing I did on this show in the last 5 days that made me as proud as putting up 7 blinds yesterday, John.
You came in showing them like you were out fishing or something, with your catch. Yeah. Got pictures here. Look at that. And this is at sunset.
Yeah, well.
This one's as the sun comes up with the fog.
Look at my finger. I even got this. I was bleeding yesterday.
Drew blood.
I drew
good.
blood.
Mm-hmm.
I got a Band-Aid on my finger here. It's my pointer finger on my right hand, which makes it tough to scroll on the mouse, which is the most heavy lifting I normally do during the show.
You're going to have to contact OSHA.
Yeah, exactly. I'm suing someone. But it's like, it's those things that you do, whether it's in your work, whether it's in your private life. Like, sure, could I pay someone to do that? I guess, but you know what? I felt so good about myself after doing that, and you can't put a price tag on things like that. And all we're asking people to do in this country is go volunteer, work 20 hours a week. It will be good for America as a whole. Our caller of the day is coming up next.
If it's happening in KCMO, it's on KCMO 95.7 FM. Here's Pete Mundo.
It's 9:35. It's the time of the morning when we give you our caller of the day, but we will set it up first with what Patrick Mahomes said to CNBC about whether he wants to see the Chiefs stay in Missouri at Arrowhead or build the big, beautiful Dome Stadium in Kansas.
Which of these do you prefer?
You know, it's really out of my control, honestly. But I think Arrowhead's a special place. It's a special place that doesn't come around a lot of times. It's my favorite place to play in the NFL, not just because it's my team, but you can feel the history of it when you play. But I know Kansas has done a great bit as well. And, I mean, they would build a great stadium and facility. It'd be the top of the top. And so I don't really have a choice in the matter anyways, but I think either way, we can't go wrong because we have the fan base of the Chiefs Kingdom behind us, and they'll fill that stadium no matter if it's in Missouri or Kansas. So I'm just excited for the future of the Kansas City Chiefs.
There you go. Patrick Mahomes, CNBC, talking a little stadium. And here is our caller of the day.
Hello? It's the Mundo in the Morning Caller of the Day. On KCMO Talk Radio, now on FM at 95.7.
913-408-7957. Let's go to Tammy in Shawnee. Hey, Tammy, good morning. You're on KCMO.
Good morning, Pete. Hey, listening to that clip, for me, the most important thing was the fact that he was letting us know that he's going to stay in Kansas City. He wants to retire and become part of the Chiefs Hall of Fame. That's what's important to him, and he recognizes what a great community Kansas City is. And he's not going to go off and be a Joe Montana and leave us and go somewhere else and retire. And in this day and age where they could make so much more money, and Lord knows he could, that's saying something about his character.
Well, I appreciate Tammy's feel-good vibes on a Monday. I'm not going to sit here and predict whether or not Mahomes finishes out his career in Kansas City. There's too many examples of the great ones not doing it. Whether it's Montana or Brady or Aaron Rodgers, the list goes on, right? Too many examples of these guys typically not finishing their careers where they spend the bulk of them. But on a Monday, where you're looking for some feel-good, I like Tammy's approach. I like her attitude. What I like even more is what Mahomes said there. He didn't hem and haw. He didn't say, I'm not picking a side here. He said, I really like Arrowhead, and I like the history, and I love playing there. I'm not saying that's the reason Clark Hunt makes a decision either way. You're talking about a 30, 40, 50-year decision that will impact the franchise long after Clark Hunt is gone, to be totally honest. His kids will be in charge when the next decision is being made. But I don't think it hurts for those of you that want to see Arrowhead stay and want to see the team continue to play at Arrowhead to have obviously the face of the franchise and the most important player in franchise history coming out and saying, I really like what we've got, John.
Mm-hmm. Well, Frank White takes credit for working at Royal Stadium when they built the Jackson County Sports Complex. And he'll soon be available again for some construction work, I assume. So, maybe this is all working out for everybody.
Something tells me Frank could end up with his kid at the KCATA. He'll end up he'll end up making more money somehow with the KCATA after his kid hires him. Trust me, something weird is going to end up happening there. So Mahomes has chimed in. Now, this was the lead story yesterday on Channel 41, speaking of our stadiums. A father-son duo just completed all 30 stadiums in Major League Baseball. I actually had a guy I used to work with at CBS. He was out here this weekend for the Mets game. I didn't realize we were at the same game till I saw his picture on Facebook. But he's done 26 Major League Baseball stadiums. But to Woke 41, they ran this package after this father-son duo completed all 30 stadiums, including now the K, And here's where they ranked Kauffman Stadium.
Starting in 2017, the father-son duo hit the road to visit all 30 MLB stadiums.
You grew up on this trip, kind of.
I did. Yeah, it's been like 8 years, so it's been a long time. But it's over now.
From Boston to San Diego, they ranked each stadium, and Kauffman landed in 22nd place.
The main thing that I look for when I'm looking for a good stadium is how cool is the area around it. What is around there is a good environment for a baseball team. In Kansas City, I would say not really. There's like nothing around where the.
Okay. This duo's from Olathe, by the way. I don't know about you, but when I'm analyzing a stadium, I'm thinking about the stadium. I'm not thinking about a potential sports bar outside of it because, in theory, I'm at a stadium to watch a game and I spend 2-3 hours at the stadium, not outside of it, John. That maybe everyone has their own rankings in terms of what matters, but like if John Sherman wanted to find someone and have them go on TV and make the case for why the K has to go and why they need a new stadium, this guy would be it. I don't know what Sherman, I say this tongue-in-cheek, might have paid this guy, but this is a perfect press release for John Sherman.
How about that? Familiarity breeds contempt there. So they're from Olathe. I'm like, is there familiarity with the stadium having them rate it lower? But then when he said on things around it, I'm like, then why isn't it last?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Outside of the tailgaters, not taking anything away, but that's more of a Chiefs phenomenon. I know it somewhat spreads over, but if you're going to rate what's around it, why wouldn't it be last?
Yeah,
what's worse, Oakland, I guess?
I don't even know.
For a few more minutes?
I haven't been to enough of them to really know.
Right.
But you're right. If it's largely about what's around it, then this one should be dead last.
10 better, right?
8, yeah.
Apparently 8, right.
Royals play.
Although the grass isn't always greener at other ballparks. Scott wants a new Royal Stadium, but there are things he loves about Kauffman.
I would like them to keep some of the elements of Kauffman Stadium. Like, I love the crown scoreboard and the fountains, so I'm hoping that they would incorporate that in some way.
The Olathe duo is open to all proposed locations for a new stadium. But to make it their dream stadium, they have one ask.
I'm going to say I would like to see a dome. It's really great when games aren't affected by weather.
They can also have concerts and things at the stadium that way.
All right. These guys aren't paying attention, with all due respect. I mean, there's no dome coming for the Royals.
A domed baseball stadium?
Yeah. No one in 2.5 years of this conversation has even brought up the idea of a domed baseball stadium. These guys are spending too much time on the road. They're not in Kansas City enough. I mean, it must be nice. God bless them. But literally, the word dome and Royals, those two words have not been together in the 2.5 years we've had this conversation.
Dome and baseball. I'm trying to think. There's maybe, two stadiums that have a dome?
Yeah, the only one I've actually been in with a dome that was at the Montreal Expos old stadium about 25 years ago, 30 years ago at this point as a kid. That was it.
Tropicana, I guess.
Yeah, Tropicana.
It got ripped off, though.
Yeah, that's right. The hurricane ripped it off.
I was at the Kingdome when I was a kid.
The Mariner Stadium?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. The Twins Stadium. But they're outdoor now.
Yeah. There's nothing.
I was at the Humpty Dump once, is what they called it up there.
Oh, it's great. So, listen, it's a cool story. It's a nice, feel-good local story. But to rank the K 22nd and then say it's because of about what's not around it, and then say you want a dome, it's like, guys, you're killing me here. Steven in Kansas City, what's up?
Oh, Pete, I was watching Nick Hayes' show, the show that you're on, and he quoted a recent survey. The K was ranked number 6.
I know.
In the real survey. Out of all the ballparks, the legendary ballparks, Yankee Stadium, Camden Yards, Chicago Cubs, Red Sox, we are number 6. So that said, we need to rebuild Kauffman Stadium at 119th and all.
Oh, stop. There's one thing that we have here that those stadiums don't have. You know what that is, right?
What's that?
Concrete cancer, baby.
That's right.
Stage 5, concrete cancer.
The Phantom, when we rebuild the K at 119th and all, we will make sure that the phantom concrete cancer that comes and goes will we'll never have to worry about that again. So have fun dealing with those traffic problems.
Yeah.
I mean, we got everything we need there. We got a crate and barrel. We got I can walk from a luxury apartment right across the street. I know you're gonna love that, Pete. All those luxury apartments where
Yeah, it's going to
watch
be
the
great. It's going to be
baseball
great.
game.
Thank you, Stephen. I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Take care.
Keep making yourself laugh, buddy. Great stuff. Last week, it was Wednesday, I got lunch with a friend of mine that I worked with at CBS. He was here in town. He works for one of the major betting companies in sports betting. And he was here because they're getting ready for the Missouri sports betting launch coming later this year. So he came into town with a coworker of his. We got lunch on Wednesday, and it was his first time at Kauffman Stadium. And he goes, "Stadium's great." It's like, I got no issue. He's like, the concourses are bigger than Yankee Stadium or Citi Field. He lives in New York. He goes, I have nothing to complain about with the stadium. He's like, yeah, it's kind of remote. And that was the one thing that he talked about. Like, they were staying downtown, had to Uber out to the stadium, kind of a hassle and a headache, and I get it. But in a town where mass transit's not a thing, it's not like you're taking the 7 train to Citi Field. You're not going up to the Bronx on the subway to get off at the Yankee Stadium stop and go watch a ball game. In a town where people want to get in their cars and go from point A to point B, it kind of serves its purpose, right? So it's just funny to get the perspectives of people who aren't here, aren't in the weeds on any of this, don't even know that there's a stadium conversation happening, and they largely don't understand the point of why you would tear it down. Not that it's the most beautiful thing you've ever seen from a structural standpoint, but being in the stadium in particular. I mean, even Kate, she was there for the first time on Saturday in 6 years since we took Claire when she was a baby, and she's like, I don't get it. I mean, once again, she's not the diehard sports fan that they're catering to on this stuff. That's like going to multiple games a year. But she's just walking around. She's like, I don't get it. I can get to a bathroom. There's accessible food. The seats are pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are we doing here?
You walk out to the stadium, you're like, I'm outside. I'm out at the ballpark.
Yeah.
I'm not inside or looking at the facade of an old building. I've got room to breathe and air circulation when it does circulate in the summer.
Yes. And it was not circulating on Saturday. I'll tell you that right now. It was not circulating on Saturday. But we had a great time. Kids had a great time, too. 913-408-7957. You can join us on KCMO. The president's giving a sports take yesterday that, as much as I love him, I got to disagree with next.
Hey, it's Kevin Keatsman. Stick around. I'm coming up at 10 o'clock right after Pete Mundo on KCMO 95.7 FM.
Final few minutes here on KCMO. Keatsman Uncanceled takes over at 10 o'clock. So Trump was spending the day yesterday in New Jersey. He was at MetLife Stadium at this soccer match that was taking place. I didn't say a game. I said it right, John, just for you soccer nerds, a soccer match. Okay.
Oh, a match going out on the pitch as we speak.
So he was with the English soccer club Chelsea to celebrate its victory in the 2025 FIFA Club World Cup. They beat France's Paris Saint-Germain 3-0 yesterday. Does that mean anything to you at all?
Paris Saint-Germain's a pretty good club.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good match, if you will.
Okay. Fair enough.
Like everybody that cared in America was there, I guess. So.
Yeah. Well, Trump was having a great time yesterday.
Sure.
Chelsea was the underdog, though, so it was an upset.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think PSG won the Champions League.
What'd you bet your paycheck on it there, Mark? Jeez, how do you know the line on a club World Cup match?
Oh yeah, I've got a friend who's really. I've got a friend who's really deep into that stuff. So.
This is getting scary, Mark.
He's texting me, asking me about it. So.
Take it easy. Take it easy in there. Okay. So Trump yesterday is on stage. Absolutely incredible moment where I think they tried to pull Trump off the stage after they gave these guys their trophy, and Trump just stood there. He just having the time of his life, stood there, starts clapping, cheering with the team. They're celebrating, and there's these great viral photos and videos now of Trump, and he's just got this huge grin on his face. Like you rarely see Trump with a smile that big in a moment like that, because usually he's going for the alpha approach. Usually he's got kind of that look on his face when he's walking into like a UFC match where he's kind of going for the pro wrestler approach, tough guy thing. He was genuinely happy being on that stage yesterday, and it showed in a way that he doesn't usually show. So he's asked about U.S. soccer. World Cup, of course, is coming here next year. It's going to be in Kansas City as well. And he made this prediction, and I could not disagree with him more.
You talk about winning, you talk about making America the greatest again. Do you see any instance in where America could start dominating in football on a global stage?
Well, I can tell you we're doing very well on the other stage, on the political stage, on the financial stage. I was just in Saudi Arabia, I was in Qatar, I was in UAE. Here we have Qatar and, the big presence they have. But all of the leaders, and then you look at NATO, all of the leaders said a year ago your country was dead. And now you have the hottest country in the world. There's a lot of truth to that. We were doing very badly as a country. We had an incompetent administration. And now we have a hot country. It's really hot. And I think the soccer is going to be very hot here, too. It already is. It's gotten, a lot of play. And I think with the play come the great players. And I think it'll do very well.
There you go. That is the weave on steroids there by Trump. That's what that is. So he goes on the kind of tie-in current American politics to NATO funding to Team USA is going to be great and it's going to keep getting better. And no, it's not. Our best athletes don't play soccer. And there's no evidence to suggest that the upcoming generation's best athletes are playing soccer. So as much as I would like for Team USA to be competitive on the world stage, I see no evidence to suggest that we are going to make soccer in America great. Not great again, because it was never great, but great to begin with, John.
It has been better, and to your point, we have so many athletes that we should be able to find enough, but just a handful. You need a sort of a generation. You need 4 or 5 guys at least on an 11-man team to make any kind of difference. Right now, it's just kind of one every couple of years in America.
We do not have those guys. I'd love for us to have those guys, but there's no evidence to suggest that they are coming anytime soon. Keatsman Uncanceled coming up. Have a great rest of your Monday. We're back tomorrow morning at 6.